I am going completely off grid. This is probably going to be a bit of a sort of an improv video, because one of my most requested videos has been to do another rant review, and you lot seem to find it hilariously funny that I hate some books, and so I've found another corker for you lot today. So yeah, this is a real corker. This is just crap. Okay, so it's called Touch of a Ghost by Jennifer Slocum. This is the lovely cover. What can I say about this book? Nothing positive, really, to be honest. Nothing positive. In fact, this book shouldn't even be called a book, because it should be called Willow Reads Crap for Far Too Long. That's what it should be called. The only positive thing I can say about this book, quite honestly, is the fact that it's short. It's really, really short. It's so short that when you load it and then open it in Kindle, it informs you that you have 57 minutes left in this book. And part of that is her trying to fill the book out with bits of crap, like other pictures of all her book covers and bragging about the awards that she's won. I mean, I'm sorry. What awards? Because these cannot be legit awards. I mean, unless these are awards for the worst book and with people that have no taste. It's just, ugh, I can't. I seriously, I don't even know what to say about it, really. Okay, so I don't mean to be horrible, but I'm going to be anyway. I'm really not trying to bash anybody that is a self-published author. I mean, I am a self-published author because I understand how the publishing world and the industry itself is changing, and I have no problem with that. I really don't. After careful consideration and research, I decided it was the best way forward for me and for my work. And I have many, many wonderful authors that I know. Some that have been traditionally published authors for years are now moving to self-publishing. So I have no problem with it. But Jennifer is one of these people that gives self-publishing a bad name. Many people equate self-publishing with inferior quality, and I will always argue this misconception to the death. But in the case of this book, I just can't do it, because it is just that bad. I was reading bits out to my daughter, who's 17, yes, I'm that old, and she was just like, how is this even a thing? How is this even a thing? Child, I don't know. I really don't know. So, I did a little bit of research on Miss Jennifer Slocum, and I checked her out on Goodreads, and believe me, the results were not good. Once again, this author seems to be prolific in her work. It's got a large catalogue of books out there. But when you look a little bit deeper, you see that none of them are more than 50 pages long. Some of them are 37 pages long. That does not count as a novel or a book, in my opinion, at all. 37 pages is novelette length. It's not even a novella, it's novelette. It is tiny, it is small, and it is not good quality. Another thing that I will show you in a little bit when I actually get into this book a little bit is the awful formatting. The spacing is so big that you could probably cut these 50 pages that I have of this book down to about 25. That's how bad the formatting and the general quality of the product is. So let's delve in, shall we? The story starts off with a woman moving into a new place after college or something. Honestly, I'm not paying huge attention to it, and I had to go back and read it a second time, so just have a look at this. Okay, one thing that I really don't like about this book is the fact that it's in the first person. Now, if you refer to my lovely book series I did of mistakes that novice writers make, Miss Jennifer Slocum manages to completely hit every single one of my points, and show it as an example of what not to do. It's first person. Some of the words she should not have been using in the right context. Some of these sentences make zero sense, and the ones that do make sense still make you kind of go, what? What are you doing here? What are you trying to make with this, and what are you trying to mean? Because this reads so badly, it's not even funny. Okay, chapter 1. Ever since I decided to get my own place and leave my parents' house after I completed my high school graduation, it had been my reluctant journey on its own. I completed my college while sharing an apartment with 2 complete strangers who ended up being great friends. What, with each other or with you? But like everything else in life, the college also came for a phase, as we all moved towards different directions, picking our own tracks. When I moved to Sacramento after my college, so not after graduation or anything, just after my college, I was overwhelmed. Not only did I get a great job, but the city itself fascinated me a lot. Was she overwhelmed by the job, the college, the place, I don't know. I was welcomed by the Sacramento River and the diverse beauty of the city. The river itself welcomed you. Nice. Friendly river. I always wanted to live in a culturally rich city, and Sacramento was just the right place for me. I started working as a graphic designer in one of the firms headquartered in the city. Although getting my own place in a city like that was a tough deal. The language bounces so strangely. I had a couple of friends who were living in the city, and they welcomed with the whole of their heart. Welcomed what? Her, I'm assuming. I entered their apartment and soon their lives. Creepy. They were sharing a small place, and it was a tough job to get your privacy in a place full of 3 other people. After I was settled in my workplace, I knew it was time to get a place for myself. So like a place of our own, I'm assuming. I wanted to get my own place where I could do whatever I want. Not I wanted, I want. So the tense has just vanished into wherever with this. You know, we don't care about this now. That is not part of our plan when writing this book, to have it make sense, to have the tenses stick or anything like that. Okay, don't even think about asking for that. The thought was there in my mind ever since I bid goodbye to my parents and decided to embark on my journey. Don't get me wrong! Exclamation mark there. Exclamation mark. I love them immensely. But I still love them to the core of my being. But I couldn't see my future in a small town in Texas. Well, maybe I really, but I'm English, so there you go. So the story of finding the perfect place commenced. That's not me saying that. That's in the book. That's there. I started searching for a small apartment that would fit all of my clothes and other stuff and will give me enough space to breathe. Well, that's what we all hope for in a house, isn't it? We all want to put our shit in it and still be able to breathe. Because, you know, breathing is important. That was all I wanted, as my budget was limited and I didn't want to share a place with anyone else. But as long as you can breathe, right? I had colleagues and other friends who offered me to share their apartment. But it didn't feel right. I knew that sooner or later I had to have my own space, and I didn't want to waste any more time staying at a temporary home. I started my quest by looking at empty apartments nearby my workplace, but the rent was overwhelming and outside my budget. I realised very soon that I won't be able. I won't be able to. You won't be able to get a place in the middle of the city, so I expanded my radius and started looking for some other localities. So once again, as I said in my videos of things that a novice writer shouldn't do, she's using language that does not fit the pace, the style, her writing, her anything, you know, her voice, if there actually is an awful voice here, she ain't fitting it. She's trying to come across as more smart and educated than I believe she actually is by using bigger language and bigger words and more complex language to actually try and get her point across. But what it's actually doing is making her seem dumb as a post. Just my opinion. You know, if I had a cup of tea right now, I'd be sipping it. Do you know what? I'm going for my coffee. Let's just assume in my I love coffee mug that it's tea. Okay, we're just going to assume. Because every time I want to sip the tea, it's going to have to be coffee. So, yeah, so she's working on finding her little place. I'm not going to keep reading you all of the bits and pieces of her finding her place, because believe me, it drags and it's bullshit. So, as I said, the writing itself is very amateurish, and it seems to be full of filler content that you really don't need to know, and my guess would be that without that the book would be even shorter. This was her attempt at actually bulking it out, which didn't work. The writing, as you might have noticed, is, as I said, in the first person, which everyone knows I'm not a huge fan of, but I can read it if it's well written, and this really isn't. It's got a very stream of consciousness-like feeling to it, which is where it's just an unedited jumble of rubbish, much like everyone's brain is. But in a novel, you don't want that. You do not want that. Novels need to be clear, concise, and to eliminate unnecessary information. And this book seems to absolutely thrive on unnecessary information. Okay, so back to our plot. I say that very lightly. This woman moves into an apartment which is too good to be true. It's cheap, beautiful, just what she wants and what she needs. But soon after she moves in, she begins to feel a presence in the home with her. Not that I'd have a problem with that. I'd be like, yeah, cool beans, new roommate. And then she's in her apartment, and she comes across, she comes home to find the tap running. As I said, the formatting goes from this, which isn't too bad, to this, which is a bloody eyesore to read, I'm telling you. So here she goes, right? I loved my apartment and would often just sip my hot chocolate at night, staring at the beauty of Charles Street. But often I would feel someone's presence. It was a strange feeling, a kind of feeling that had no name, which made it even harder for me to describe, but the feeling was there, I knew it. That's all the description we get. So, as I said, she comes home and said there were numerous reasons which made me realise that something was wrong in the apartment. There were times when the light would start flickering on its own. There were times when I would return back from work and find a random movie playing on my television. At first I thought it must have been me. I could have left the television on by mistake, but I realised that it had become a daily incident. My mind was playing games with me, and I knew that I wasn't the one that was leaving the television on every morning. Day by day I could feel someone's presence beside me, and there was no way it was getting any better. It was just like any other day in early April. So we're in early April, so we get this. I came back from work to my apartment after enjoying the weather. It was a beautiful day and I was happy all along. Don't know what she was all along about what? The whole day, maybe? But the smile on my... Obviously, it's lovely weather because she said it's April, so she's enjoying the weather and it's a beautiful day. So she's had to tell us that in 3 fucking sentences. The smile on my face soon vanished when I opened the gate of my apartment. I could hear the sound of water running heavily nearby. I knew it was coming from the bathroom and I ran towards it to check it. Because you knew it was running. As soon as I opened the bathroom gate... Now, she doesn't appear to have doors here. Now, I'm sorry, I don't know Sacramento. Never been there. I don't know the architecture, so someone please correct me if you actually have gates rather than doors. But apparently here she has gates. So... she opens the bathroom gate. I was welcomed by a strong gush of water. The bathroom was flooded from water, which covered the entire room area as well. I'm sorry. She was welcomed by a strong gush of water, and the bathroom was flooded from water. What else would it be flooded with? The tap was still on and was showing no sign to stop the flow. Well, that's what taps do. If taps are on... I'm sorry, I just hate to clear this up with you. If taps are on, they do not stop until you turn them off. That's the point of it. They won't show any sign of interrupting or stopping the flow until you turn it off. The water, after the water submerged the entire living room area, I ran toward the sink and turned the tap off. So you waited until it flooded your entire living room before going, maybe I should turn that shit off. I was furious. I was petrified. Which were you? And they're literally like 3-word sentences. I was petrified. I was furious. In the middle of all that anger, I was alone. I took care of the entire mess, which took almost 3 to 4 hours. Not precise there. The joy and smile on my face disappeared. Oh, you've already said that. Okay. I knew that I didn't leave the tap open, as I've always had a habit of double checking every tap, every leak before going to work. So you check leaks as well, do you? I check for leaks. But you know what? When I get a leak, I kind of fix that shit, or get someone else to fix it for me. I don't just leave the leak and go, yeah, I've checked it. It's still going. That's fine. It wasn't me, and I knew that something was wrong in the apartment. I prayed to God for these incidents to stop, but God had something else in mind. Often in the middle of the night, I would get a foul smell. No, sorry, I correct myself. I would get some foul smell, not a foul smell, some foul smell. So maybe not a whole one, just some. It didn't take very long for me to realise it was a gas leak. It would happen more than twice every week. I would open the windows and the door, so apparently she got a door, not a gate, but okay, turn off the gas, and would simply lie awake every night waiting for the gas to clear. So she's going to lay in her apartment. I told you she's dumb as a fucking rock. She's going to lay in her apartment and just stay there in bed waiting for the gas to go. My first thought was that something was wrong in the apartment. You don't fucking say. The wiring, the gas installation, the plumbing, the electricity. What gets me though is the fact she said here that she would turn the gas off, open the doors and windows and wait for it to go. Why is she turning it back on again? If she knows she's got a gas leak, why is she turning that shit back on? What even is that? Would you do that? Seriously, would you go, I got a gas leak? Right, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn the gas off, lay here quietly in my bed, let it sort of float away and let it disperse, and then I'm going to turn it back on again without trying to figure out where this gas leak is. So it's taken a while to figure out, maybe I should get someone in to check this. So anything was making it impossible for me to stay in this place. I thought of it a lot of times and realised the reason why the apartment was rented to me at such a throwaway price. So that whole sentence in itself, I know it sounded like I read that wrong. I did not. It was that bad. I thought of it a lot of times and realised the reason why the apartment was rented to me at such a throwaway price. Not I realised that was the reason. This could be the reason. She realised the reason, but you know. The next weekend, when I realised that the gas leaks and water problems were too much for me to handle, because apparently she's just dealing with it by leaving it, I went to see the broker and expressed my discomfort. I narrated him the entire story and how uncomfortable I was in that apartment. She narrated him the entire story. Didn't tell it to him, she just narrated it. He listened to me patiently and didn't even change a single expression on his face as if he already saw it coming. I don't see fuck all coming. What is this? I will get it checked tomorrow, he said after hearing my complaints. And so he did. At least that's good, I suppose. The next day I heard a loud knock on my door early in the morning. I opened the gate, back at gates, and found an entire team of house inspectors, plumbers, electricians and so on. She actually said and so on, not me. They were accompanied by the broker and did their work for the rest of the day. That's important. They did their work for the rest of the day. They made sure that nothing was wrong at the place and the apartment was as good as new. Their inspection took almost the entire day and they left late in the evening. Nevertheless, I was content that the inspection was over and I finally would be able to stay in the place without any hassle. So she slept peacefully that night and that's lovely. Such a good book. So, the character name's Miranda, by the way. Thought I should tell you that. She doesn't announce that at the beginning. We only find that out in chapter 3. So, but I'm catching you up early. Spoilers. So after the apartment's checked, she goes to work, and we get this lovely bit of jumbled narrative, which seems to switch tense and like barely make sense in regards to flow. It's just awful. absolutely just awful. So she's in her new place, and she's felt this presence. We've had problems with the house, so now she gets invited to a wedding. It says here, right? The next couple of days passed the same way. I was juggling my life from work to home when a colleague invited me to her marriage. Not her wedding, her marriage. I was juggling my life from work to home when a colleague invited me to her marriage. Join in, why don't you? Miranda, you have to come anyhow! Exclamation mark. Really, throw that in there. She hugged me when I congratulated her for the big news. I will try my best, was all I could say, as she decided to let go of me after the long hug. Apparently they were still hugging. No! Exclamation mark. You have to come. I want you to be my bridesmaid. What? It came out to be such a shock. I hardly knew Bailey from work. Well, that's how I saved people's contacts on my phone. For me, she was just Bailey from work. Okay. I'm sure we all do that. But see what I mean about this just stream of consciousness crap there. Yes! Exclamation mark again. This Bailey is very excitable. Yes! I want you to be one of the bridesmaids. Steve and I decided to marry all of a sudden. And we're having a destination wedding this coming weekend. No, the coming weekend. Not this coming weekend. The coming weekend. We have planned it all. We all will go to a beautiful and lavishing resort. Lavishing. Just us and our close group of friends, where we will exchange vows, because, you know, we don't know what happens at a wedding. You have to come anyhow! Exclamation mark. She forced me to attend her wedding. I thought of it and realised that the lavishing weekend getaway was exactly what I wanted after solving the apartment fiasco. Okay, I will come. Thank you for the invite. Oh, sorry, I've got to be excited about that because there's an exclamation mark on that as well. I congratulated her once again and decided to attend the wedding. So she's forced her to attend her wedding, apparently. And now she's decided to go. So, yeah. See what I mean? It's just... no one talks like this. Or they really shouldn't. The ceremony was beautiful and the food was tastier than I thought. The resort was indeed lavishing. Indeed lavishing. And I had the time of my life that weekend. I was away from the work and the trouble that my apartment gave me over the last few months. The wedding ceremony was beautiful and I made a lot of great friends over there. Don't know where there is. One of them was Ralph, Bailey's cousin, who was with me during the entire wedding ceremony. He was a great companion and a complete gentleman. With brown hair and blue eyes, he was extremely good looking and charming. He danced with me at the reception and for a moment I thought that time stopped. So Ralph's apparently a nice guy. After the ceremony was over, he decided to drop me to my room and I gladly agreed. So he decided to drop her to her room, or escort her to her room, I'm assuming, and she gladly agreed. So he's decided it, she's agreed it. It kind of makes no sense, but there you go. There we were, sitting on the couch of the guest room. I offered him some water, as all of a sudden he started to feel a sudden discomfort and sat on the couch. Thank you for the company today. I didn't know anyone here and the party would be really boring without you. Also, I've got an exclamation mark on that again. I thanked him for his company and handed him the glass of water. You do not need to say that you thanked him for his company, because you've just thanked him in your dialogue. You do not need to say that you've handed him the glass of water, because you've offered him some water. No problem, Miranda. The pleasure was all mine! Exclamation mark. He drank the water in one go and looked at me. He turned all red, and it felt like someone was choking his neck. He turned all red, and it felt like someone was choking his neck. So maybe she should know. Here is the one, the quote of the book that me and my daughter have been saying to each other for the last 2 days now. Are you fine, Ralph? Should I call someone? No, are you all right? Are you okay? Are you fine? Are you fine? Are you feeling fine? Ralph, are you fine? I could sense that something was wrong with him. Well, bully fuck for you with the observations. You could sense something was wrong. It's fine. I think I should just call it a night. It must be the wine, I guess, he said and stood up from the couch. Yes, it must be the wine. Thank you for the help. Another exclamation mark. What is this? I'm doing a video on exclamation marks, full stops, or just punctuation in general. And it will tell you exactly when to use an exclamation mark. And this is not the time. Exclamation marks need to be used sparingly. They need to be used bit by bit, now and then, very, very sporadically, scattered gently through your prose. They should not be shoehorned in and shoved in your face every single second. And it should definitely not be when the feeling of and the emotion and the dialogue do not match it. What is wrong with you? Okay, back to this doesn't work. So, yes, it must be the wine. Thank you for the help. I greeted him. And he left in a mechanical way without even looking at me, as if he was possessed by someone. How do you greet someone to say goodbye? How do you greet someone? Am I missing something here? Am I missing a trick? Am I supposed to be greeting people to say goodbye? Okay. So, she's gone to this wedding. I can't even. So, she's at the wedding. She's met Ralph. He's experienced something strange. Once again, Dumbbird is completely stumped by it all and doesn't even know what the fuck's going on. So, once this guy leaves, she goes to bed and has what she first thought was an erotic dream. And that turns out to be real. And she realises that there's a presence in bed with her. And this is her reaction. The dream continued. It was so sweet that I decided not to open my eyes and to stay in the dreamland forever. An enigmatic touch started from my lips and travelled its way to every part of my body, as if it was a lost nomad who was trying to find its home on my body. I opened my mouth and felt a presence. A soft touch on the top of my tongue. They were someone's lips. The lips soon grabbed my tongue and bit me with the tongue. How do tongues bite? I need to know this. Is this some kind of ghost thing? I was escalated and reached the highest peak of my pleasure from a tongue biting her, apparently. But soon I realised that the peak was about to come, so she's reached the top of her pleasure, but no, she's not even at the peak. The presence soon travelled its way to my bosom and played on the tip of my nipples for a while with the warm touch of its tongue and bit it until I realised that something penetrated inside of me. Yes, I am managing to read this with a relatively straight face. The penetration grew deeper and deeper, and I reached the peak of my pleasure. I was at an unknown space and realised that I could do almost everything in the world. I opened my eyes all of a sudden, coming back to reality. I looked at the wall clock. It was exactly midnight. So ghosts come and have a fumble at midnight. So she does some research and she figures out who her nocturnal visitor is and that realises that he's a ghost. My body lay there and I smiled. I smiled because I knew that someone was there with me in my bed and there was nothing I could do to change the situation. She could get out of bed, to be honest. She could just get up and be like, fuck this shit, I'm out. Which is what I would do. I mean, I'm okay with ghosts. Ghosts are my buddies. I'm okay with them. But I definitely think if one was in bed with me and touching me around the place, I would do something about that. I wouldn't just lay there. That night I couldn't sleep. Well, obviously it was midnight and she's just woken up after sleeping. So, okay. That night I couldn't sleep. I dressed up quickly. Don't know what she's dressing up in. and searched about different paranormal activities on the internet. I read so many stories about the existence of ghosts that it made me believe that I was with a ghost that night as well. Then why not? I was not feeling scared. Then why not? I was not feeling scared. I'm assuming she means, then why was I not feeling scared? But why not was I not feeling scared? Ghosts are supposed to be scary, but she found a strange silence in her stranger's presence. She realises the presence that had been with her ever since she moved into the apartment on Charles Street. I need more coffee to get through this. It was the ghost that had made Ralph leave the room. It was the ghost who made Ralph left the room. See, here's the thing, right? I'm reading this out and I'm automatically correcting it to how it should be written and how it should read to actually make it make sense. And I'm trying so hard not to correct it that I'm having to go back and correct myself for correcting the shit writing. Let's just take a moment to appreciate my sacrifice for you guys. It was the ghost who made Ralph left the room because he couldn't share me with anyone else. What did that mean? Did the ghost have a strange affection towards me? Well, I would say so, considering he was apparently tongue-biting your tongue and tongue-biting your nips. So I'd say yes. What did the ghost want from her? She had no wealth, no treasure to offer. We've gone straight to treasure as a thing to offer a ghost. Treasure. So, she's decided that she's going to do some research and try and find out who this ghost is. The next morning, I drove back to my apartment. I kept my small bag at a side, not the side, a side, and locked the main door. I exactly knew where I had to go. I opened the door of the small storeroom and browsed through the collection of old journals and books. There was a collection of old handwritten journals that I found in the store. Again, you do not need to keep repeating yourself, woman. I knew that they would help me in finding the original owner of the place. Somehow, I knew that it would lead me to the presence of the ghost who was haunting me for an unknown reason. The letters were really old, as they were dated back to the 19th century. They were written by Colonel Richard Burrow. It didn't take me long to figure that the ghost I have been courting was none other than the Colonel, who was once a revered army man. Once a revered army men. Not man, men, like plurals of these. Lots of them apparently. He was more than one person. He had written too many journals to his wife, whom he had obviously loved to pieces, as I kept reading all these romantic journals. I found that he was a passionate I'm assuming that means lover, and perhaps too possessive of his wife. When he was away at the battlefields, he wrote her poetry of love and was very graphical in his thoughts. He mentioned too many times as to how she never showed the same passion and romance, and he resented her for that. That's very nice. Way to go, Colonel Burrows, dude. Way to go. That's how to make a wife feel special. As I kept on reading the journals, which soon took shape of a soliloquy, I realised that he wasn't writing to his wife, but his mistress. He loved her passionately, but she had failed to return the favour. How did she become his mistress then? War has a way of impacting the life of people, and when he had finally retired, he had come back to a lonely mansion because his mistress had fled away. She couldn't have just fled, she fled away. He was now in search of the mistress, and no one could understand what happened to him. The apartment had been haunted ever since. I think it's pretty obvious what happened to dude. I looked up his details on the internet and started excavating the books of history. the books of history. Just the entire history of the world is excavated now. I was utterly perplexed and confused beyond my belief. Me fucking too, love. Me too. When I was perplexed beyond my belief when I stared at a terribly long account of Colonel Richard Burrow. He had been very famous in his time for his heroics on the field and his conquests in the bed with umpteen women. However, it was his mistress who had claimed the heart of the colonel. As I kept reading, I was taken aback when I saw a picture of his mistress staring back at me. We all know where this is going, don't we? Holy shit! This couldn't possibly happen, says she. The picture read, Colonel Richard Burrow with Mistress Miranda, with an exclamation mark. It all started to make sense. I wish this book did. The decision to select on the last apartment on the child's stress wasn't something I did on whim. Not a whim, on whim. The spirit had guided me all along. He had been seeking me. I had no clue to know if there was more to this than merely my name. But I just knew that Richard saw his mistress in me, and his passion was true and hot and wild. I wouldn't lie and say that the information didn't thrill me. Why? Why? Apparently this is why. Come to think of it, I had started enjoying the long passionate nights and the way he could make me moan and scream in delight. It was wild to think of making love to a ghost, but the way he could stir me up and get my senses wild was something no man could do so far. As I was thinking of these thoughts, I could feel a strong wind building up just outside the room. Richard couldn't enter the room for reasons I still didn't know. I'm not even going to get on with this little bit of crap. I'm just going to continue to how she gets on after she's left the storeroom. There is something very erotic about making love to a spirit because you cannot see him or touch his body or dig your nails. Don't know where you're digging them, mate. But you can feel the strong presence touching you on those places you didn't know could make you moan in pleasure. I let him wrap around my body as he unbuckled the clothes which I had on. You got like corsets and shit going on? I mean, I'm okay with that. But, you know, what else needs unbuckling, love? He was very particular about the way he wanted me and made sure that he could see every part of me. As there was no real figure, I was not even shy of anyone. She was not even shy of anyone. This time, I really wanted to hold him, and so I guided my hand into the air, pretending that I too was in control. Surely it gave him a big jolt as he started pinning me down very passionately at first, and then I could feel tingling electricity pulsing through me. I could feel the tips of the tongue tracing my neck. The tongue stayed at my collarbone, and it played a few tricks, and I swore I hadn't been so excited ever. What tricks does this play? Does it yo-yo? Does it roly-poly? That might be fun. It kept travelling down and beneath still, and it stayed at the private parts for a lot longer than I could handle. I cried hard, and I don't even know what he did, but I climbed and whimpered, and my release came just like that, as I felt something move inside me. Richard, wrap me up and get inside me, fill me in, I cried, and called his name and more. I could feel a very strong body heavily weighing above me, and there was something very hard pushing inside my body. I felt complete. I didn't care if this wasn't a man. All I cared was the feeling of infinite happiness which I felt. One moment I was moaning, in the next I came crashing as pleasure washed over me. Voila! That was one heavenly ride. It actually says, voila, that was one heavenly ride. Next day, she wakes up. Her bed's empty and she finds her clothes scattered haywire around the room. Haywire, there you go. Obviously, this wasn't how I imagined my life to be. I didn't see myself sleeping with a ghost and making love to a spirit every day of my life. I figured I needed to get a grip on myself before it got too late. So, she couldn't leave the apartment because she got a strong tie to it. So she decides that the best thing to do would be to fuck off this ghost, right? Bye-bye, mate. He was dead, I was alive. I was looking for love, and I was not here to sell my body. So she decides, suddenly I thought of Ralph and how we had managed to spend a good time. Maybe, not maybe, maybe, I needed Richard to know that I wasn't his mistress. So she goes and calls Ralph. There was part of me that wanted him to claim me, and I wondered how drunk I really was to crave for a ghost, for a man who was no more. I quickly dressed up and wore a pair of high heels and a short black dress with a really deep cut that did wonders for my cleavage. I smiled at my reflection in the mirror and knew that my idea of seducing Ralph was likely to work. After all, men have always been stupid. This was my idea of letting Richard know that I wasn't his to own. So she has gone out with the express intention of seducing Ralph, dressing up in what seems to be quite a slutty kind of way. Or apparently this is what she's liking. She's doing it with the intention of seducing him. That's the point. I walked the 3 blocks and ordered my regular at Starbucks and waited patiently for Ralph to arrive. He came in wearing an Oxford shirt and teamed it with brown trousers, which really brought out the hues in his eyes, which are blue apparently. He was a handsome man, charming in his own way. He quickly kissed me on the cheeks and I saw his gaze settling on my breast. So much for being a gentleman. You've put them in his face. I smiled knowing that my plan was working. A part of me felt bad for using Ralph, but I had no other way to get the spirit of Richard off my mind. I wanted to spend some time with a real man and to feel the arms of a guy holding me rather than get physically intimate with a ghost. We spoke for an hour and he kept flirting with me. He was into me and I could see that. I asked him if he would like to come to my apartment and stay there for some time. Not a specific amount of time, some time. His eyes brightened at the thought and he eagerly said yes. I smiled and he rested his hands low on my waist, perhaps a bit too low for my comfort. Sure, I had a plan and I wanted to seduce him, but there was a sense of uneasiness and discomfort which I started to feel around him. So, you want to seduce him, you do not want him putting his hands on your waist, and now you're starting to feel uncomfortable. Okay, yeah, I'm with you, I get that. In another situation, this could be a turn-on, but seeing Ralph grabbing me hideously and with his eyes clouded with lust, I was a little scared. Because they're in the kitchen doing whatever they do. I tried to gain my composure, not regain, but gain, and said, "Whoa, what are you doing?" Before I could say further, Ralph pulled me close and started unzipping the back of my dress. I couldn't process what was happening and tried to break free of his hold. Now, I am not in any way, shape or form saying that rape is okay. Whatsoever. At all. But she really needs to kind of think things through properly before she just does them, okay? Stop playing, Miranda. Who do you think I am? You were teasing me with that dress of yours. I don't want the teasing snippets which you're giving me. I want the whole of you, right now. You cannot escape, babe. I have been hungry for you ever since I saw you at Bailey's wedding. How I have wanted to lay my hands on you. Now there is no undoing. Let me take this off. For you. With those words, he tried to tear apart the little dress which I had happily worn in the morning. I was shivering with fear as I dreaded my foolish decision to seduce. I should have known more about Ralph. What did I know about him? Exclamation mark. Not a question mark. What did I know about him? But what did I know about him? What if he was a psychopath? My cell phone was still in the corridor, and the kitchen was pretty far. How would I ever ask anyone for help? I cursed myself as I dreaded the whole situation. I had invited my own disaster, and I had no clue how to evade the clutches of this demon who wanted nothing more than to rape me. I always considered myself strong, but it broke my resolve. I begged him to let me go. I tried putting up a fight, but Ralph was on a mission. He was on a mission. He savagely tore my dress and unceremoniously bit me just under my neck. It left a very deep mark and I cried in agony and pain. He grabbed my hair and threw me on the kitchen floor. He quickly jumped over me like a hungry lion and started tearing apart the remnants of my clothes. I screamed and begged for help, and he slapped me right across my face. I cried for help, but no one came, and then it dawned upon me that I had someone whom I could fall on. Not call on, fall on. So she calls for the ghost. And the ghost said, however, all of a sudden I found the chandelier in the hall break and the crystals started flowing in the kitchen. There was a remarkable power in the energy as the crystals started swirling and took the shape of a tornado of sorts. The crystals smashed on Ralph's body, and he soon found blood oozing from his arms. Very surprisingly, none of the crystals touched me, and I just knew that Richard had come. He had come to save me from the monster who was unleashing his wrath on me. Ralph was stunned at this horrendous sight, as he had no clue to guess what had just happened. However, sensing how scared I really was, he still made an attack on me as he plunged forward and grabbed my back and tried to push himself inside me. Windows and doors were shaking wildly, and Ralph felt a very strong grip strangulating him. By this time, Ralph had understood that there was something terribly wrong, and he could understand that I wasn't alone. There was someone who was there by my side, and someone would protect me and keep his savage side from feeding on me. I could see Ralph's inability to breathe as Richard had blocked his throat. So, anyway, he got away. Richard took his time to assault Ralph, and Ralph was so petrified that he perhaps didn't know what to do. Ralph tried to escape, but Richard locked the kitchen doors, and somehow being locked in the kitchen room with a psychopath like Ralph didn't scare me anymore because I felt comfortable in the company of my ghost. So anyway, he's out. Almost. Don't kill him, Richard. Throw him out. Throw him away from my apartment. From our home. Our home. Where did that come from? Not a question mark. Again, you get an exclamation mark in this, not questions. I was shocked myself, but hadn't I known all along? The day when I first sensed his presence. The day when he first touched me. Apparently she knew. So, I found Ralph quickly running out the doors of the apartment, and he went outside, the gates closed by itself. The kitchen grew eerily quiet. I sat there on the floor in tattered clothes and with tears falling down my cheeks. So basically now Richard comes along and looks after her and hugs her and stuff like that. I knew we didn't have a future together, and I didn't know how long Richard's spirit would stay. These were things I needed to find out, and I promised I would do that soon. However, for now, all I wanted was the warmth of love, and I kissed what I felt was the spirit right in front of me. So, they're okay with each other. Chapter 5, last chapter. Yet chapter 5 is the last chapter, finally. It's been 6 months since I moved to the apartment. I researched extensively about ghosts and why they stay back and what could the future possibly hold. There was too much information. It was hard to separate the authentic details from fake ones. I had tried umpteen things, but so far I didn't come too far. Richard was still with me and had made me feel his presence every day, right from the time I wake up my eyes. I want to wake up my eyes sometimes as well. Right from the time I wake up my eyes and feel someone planting kiss on my lips to the time I dress up and he plays with the towels, and even when I leave for work I can sense a hug. That's all one sentence. Richard was still with me and he made me feel his presence every day, right from the time I wake up my eyes and feel someone planting kiss on my lips to the time I dress up and he plays with the towels, and even when I leave for work I can sense a hug. He sleeps with me every night on my bed, and none of my friends know about my secret affair with my ghost. I want more from this, and I know there is a way. Richard tries to help me with my research by occasionally dropping hints. Well done, Richard. However, I got an idea and I keep it away from him. He doesn't know about this because I don't know he won't agree. He doesn't know about this because I know he won't agree. However, I smile to myself because I know this is the right thing to do. As I close the door to my apartment, I let him kiss me long and hard, and this time the kiss tastes of forever. I sit down in my car and I know where I'm headed. I don't go the usual way to office, not the office, just to office, to any office. I take the different route, not a different route, the different route, and head to the outskirts. Outskirts of what? I don't know. Once on the White Ranges, I slam the accelerator hard and let the car fall from the cliff, and my body flies away, floating between the realms of life and death. They say everything's fair in love and war, and sometimes to fulfill a love story, you need to do a little extra. As my body sails through the cliffs and lands in the river, the spirit flies and I know where I am going. I knock on the last apartment on the Charles Street, where I found him. The end. The end. She kills herself, apparently by driving off a cliff, though she's floating through cliffs, and I don't know how that happened. She kills herself to be with a ghost. I can kind of forgive that in a way, because of the romance and wanting to be together forever, and he's a ghost and blah blah blah. You know, I can kind of get it, but oh my god, that was a shit ending. The whole book was shit. The whole thing was shit. Completely fucking shit. There's so much more that could be done with that, you know. It could be that this spirit jumps into the body of Ralph. I would have done that. I would have kicked Ralph's spirit out because he was a raping person. Raping person. See, this has got me so bad after nearly an hour of ranting that I can't even get my words out anymore. Ralph was obviously not a good person. He's not a nice person. If he was prepared to rape her, he was obviously not good. So I would have kicked Ralph's spirit out myself, jumped in his body and been happily ever after. But no, she's gonna sail herself off a fucking cliff. Anyway, that was the book, A Touch of Ghost. A Touch of the Ghost, possibly. Could be the ghost, could be a ghost, could be fucking ghost, I don't know. By Jennifer Skocum. It is shit. Do not read it. It is the most god-awful thing I've read in my life. And I know I said that about the last book, but these fuckers just keep surprising me. So, until next time, please, please, please do not read this book.